The tech oligarchs are not not our friends. Let's put it that mildly. They are on a rampage to create something, a different kind of government, a different kind of way of operating that puts the power all in their hands. And so really what's happening, and I've been noticing the same trend over a lot of different topics, and this is all prophetic, is there's been obviously an attack on the West from multiple areas. And this is another attack on the West from the tech industry. There's an attack on the West from immigration, illegal immigration. There's an attack on the West with digital currencies and all this other stuff. But this one is another way of trying to take down the West. So what they're trying to do is there are three separate movements from the tech industry that are moving to create what they call a techno-feudal empire. And what they're trying to do is build it from the ashes of destroying the West and destroying our constitutional republic. That's why they call it the Phoenix. It's going to rise from the ashes out of, our constitutional republic or the West. So here's what's happening. Silicon Valley oligarchs, the billionaires, right? And anti-democratic philosophers seek to bring about a techno-authoritarian empire by capturing America and the West first and then bringing it to a global scale. That's what their intent is. And they have been working on this infrastructure for nearly 2 decades. And so this is a long time coming. So one of the guys that are behind a lot of this is Peter Thiel. He calls himself a libertarian. He's a tech icon. He's a co-founder of PayPal and Palantir. His net worth is about 21 billion. He's a billionaire. He funds all the major figures across all 3 movements that I just mentioned. And he is basically the financial architect of this movement. There's a lot of other tech guys, but Peter Thiel is a very important guy to understand. Interesting about Peter Thiel, I'm going to show you a couple videos about him. Peter Thiel acts like a Christian, says Christian things. And Peter Thiel, though, is building really the tech beast system that's basically going to take over the world. He's one of the major guys behind it, and yet he warns about it. So I want you to listen to him, and I want you to see what you think is going on with Peter Thiel. Okay, let's listen to him.
We have the mechanisms that would make world government, a gigantic global surveillance state, is plausible.
That seems plausible too. And then I think, again, to come back to the Soloviev-Benson plot hole, on its own, they both seem not that desirable. Why would we have a crazy surveillance state? Why would we, why would we do this? But if you're scared enough of these things, that's the weapon. And this is sort of where my speculative thesis is that if the Antichrist were to come to power, it would be by talking about Armageddon all the time. And
Peter Thiel, the Antichrist would talk about Armageddon all the time. He'd scare people and then offer to save them.
Yes, it's the 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety. And so, which is nothing wrong with peace and safety, but you have to sort of imagine that it resonates very differently in a world where the stakes are so absolute, where the stakes are so extreme, where the alternative to peace and safety is, Armageddon and the destruction of all things. And then that's where peace and safety gets you way more than it would have in 1750.
René Girard, in I Saw Satan Fall Like Lightning, one of his books, the Antichrist boasts of bringing to human beings the peace and tolerance that Christianity promised but has failed to deliver.
There are probably, I think there are all these elements where it's downstream from Christianity. You can think of, the poor shall inherit the earth, Sermon on the Mount. Marxist theory is we're going to be more Christian, we're going to accelerate it, we're going to bring it about faster. So there is the Antichrist probably presents as a great humanitarian, as a great, it's redistributive. It's as an extremely great philanthropist, as an effective altruist. All of those kinds of things. And these things are not, simply anti-Christian, but it is always when they get overly combined with state power that something is very wrong. There are sort of ways Christ wants to unify the world. You have the parable of the Good Samaritan, where you should take care of people even if you're not related to them, and it's good to act like the Good Samaritan and to take care of people who are not just in your family or tribe or country. But then if you force everyone to be a Good Samaritan and you force a borderless world, it's somehow adjacent. It's an intensification, but it's somehow also very much the opposite.
Okay, so that's weird. He's not a Christian, and yet he's quoting 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. He's talking about the Antichrist. Well, you would think, well, is he trying to warn people of that? Because here's the weird thing. He's building the very system that's going to control everybody. Bizarre. Listen to this interview, because he doesn't actually know how to answer it when someone confronts him about it.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
To be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe, but is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
So notice how you couldn't answer the question. You're building the very thing that the Antichrist says, hey, this is great, I'm going to use this. Peter Thiel is behind that. That's a little weird. Let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 real quick, okay? But concerning the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you. So here's the thing. Jesus said you wouldn't know the day or the hour of the rapture. But he says concerning times and seasons, notice the different nomenclature. It's not day and hour, it's times and seasons. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. When they say peace and safety, the Antichrist doesn't say it. Peter Thiel is misquoting that. The Antichrist doesn't say peace and safety. They say. Who's they? The world. The world will say peace and safety. Then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman. The sudden destruction is a 7-year tribulation. Okay, so the Antichrist, his message is not peace and safety, like Peter Thiel's talking about. The message of the world is we have reached a point of peace and safety. Now we can rest, and then all of a sudden the tribulation starts. So there will be a peace and safety prior to the tribulation. And again, it tells me Peter Thiel is not a Christian. I'm not saying he doesn't, just because he doesn't know Scripture. He doesn't claim to be a Christian. He is a technocrat, billionaire, who is creating a system of surveillance that will fall into the hands of the Antichrist. So here's what we know about Peter Thiel. He founded and financed surveillance tech, now used by governments and corporations globally for massive data integration. He's behind it all. He's invested in digital infrastructure, major backer of blockchain, crypto exchanges, and fintech that could enable programmable money, a key enabler of controlling the buying and selling in Revelation 13:17. It's Peter Thiel. Supported political and tech movements, funded anti-democratic governance models like neocameralism, we'll look at that next week, and the network state, which could centralize control under tech elites. That's the whole goal. What Peter Thiel wants, and these technocrats want, is they do not want politicians anymore. They want to run the show. They want to be the elites, the philosophical elites that know it all and run the show and give you access to the world through their platforms. Okay? So for instance, what am I talking about? If I want to buy something on Amazon, I have to have access to Amazon and the internet, yeah? And I'm going to buy stuff on there. But what happens if that was the only market that you could go on to buy something, and then all of a sudden, they don't like how you're acting, they shut you off that platform? Well, guess what? You can't buy and sell on Amazon anymore. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kinds of things they're developing, and they're saying, look, we're sharing our platform, but if they ever got in control, they would control the platform and be able to control the buying and selling. That's the idea behind Peter Thiel. And they want to use AI in predictive analytics. Palantir's predictive policy and population monitoring tech could serve as the operational nervous system for the global authoritarian regime. That's what they're doing. So here's the thing. What are the motives of why he would say, hey, we got to be careful. This stuff could fall into the hands of the Antichrist. Well, you're the one making it. So there's several ways to interpret Peter Thiel. Maybe he has a blind spot hypothesis. He sees danger abstractly, but believes he can build a better version that will be used for good. That's kind of Elon Musk. Elon Musk warned about AI, and he said, we're building, unleashing a demon, he said, quote unquote. And yet he turns around and develops his own AI with Grok. Or maybe Peter Thiel has controlled opposition. He warns publicly to gain trust while quietly building the system he knows is inevitable. Maybe. Or it's inevitable technology view. He believes these systems are coming no matter what, so better to be the one developing them than leaving them to others like China and Russia. I don't know. Again, these are being nice to him. But a lot of the tech guys want to control the entire planet, and this is the problem. So the thing about it is he funds countless others building what they call American dynamism movement. And that's a movement a lot of conservatives are involved in, and a lot of Christian nationalists are involved in this. And again, we are not Christian nationalists. And what do I mean by that? We are not trying to build the kingdom of God here. We are doing the Great Commission, but we are not building the kingdom. Only the kingdom is brought by Messiah. But Christian nationalists believe they're building a theocracy, okay? The interesting thing about these tech guys is the Christian nationalists here in our country have joined forces with them, okay? There's a huge movement of Christians following these guys. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. What are the kinds of things Peter Thiel is funding? For instance, Augusto Dorico, he's a 24-year-old founder of Rainmaker. You never heard of this guy? He was on Joe Rogan. He was on a bunch of podcasts. They were all asking him, hey, man, did you cause the floods that hit Kerr County, Texas, that killed all those people? Because he was doing weather modifications in Texas a day before, I think, the rain started in Texas and caused all those problems. He went on Joe Rogan and other shows to say, I didn't do anything. Yes, we were in there and we were making rain, but it wouldn't have been at that kind of scale. Well, that's interesting because you guys were messing around with the clouds there, and they can do it. They do this all the time, by the way, weather modifications and create rain. And one of the biggest floods hit and killed how many people got killed? 100 and something? I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't have anything to do with it. How do we know? You were there the day before in the same area where it all came from. So he's behind this guy, and he's behind Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin is the intellectual engine behind it. Peter Thiel is the money behind this. This guy is the intellectual engine that developed what's called the Dark Enlightenment, which is a philosophical framework to replace democratic governance with a corporate-style authoritarian called Sovcorp. Okay? So where do they want to go? What do you mean, Sovcorp? Well, he believes that democracy has failed. They all believe democracy has failed. They believe our constitutional republic has failed. Now, to some extent, I understand what they're saying, because when we look at our political systems, whether it's in California with Gavin Newsom, or we look at the FBI, we look at the CIA, we look at what Obama and Clinton did with the Russian gate, a lot of people are starting to lose faith in our justice system because no one's going to jail, right? And everyone's ticked off about that. And it's like, none of these people, you know these creeps are not going to jail. You know Hillary Clinton's not going to jail. Obama, they're not going to put him in an orange jumpsuit. You know they're not going to do that. But yet they were behind all of this, right? Zuckerberg, voter suppression, Facebook and all that, they're not going to jail. So what's happening to a lot of people is they're ticked off. They're ticked off. The Western Europe's the same way. They're watching their elites do things that completely destroy their country, and there's no repercussions for it. Okay, so you can understand that, right? A little bit, right? You can get that, and you're like, yeah, that ticks me off too. It ticks me off that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have no accountability for the fires in LA. Did you hear anyone go to jail? Did you hear about anyone losing? I don't know. Maybe they did lose their job. I don't know. But so here's what's happening. People in the West, good people like you and I, are ticked off about that. And like, hey man, the system's not working. And is the system broke? Why are federal judges stopping what the voters did? We voted for Trump to lock that border up. And yet we have federal judges trying to stop that, right? People getting upset about that, right? Okay, so the other thing that these guys are saying, yeah, that's right, but their solution is far different than your solution. Does that make sense? We have the same complaint, but you and I have a different solution than Peter Thiel does, or Yarvin does. They want to burn the whole thing down, and start over with a tech authoritarian system that is called liquid democracy. Not constitutional republic, but a liquid democracy. And I'll get into this next week. And the liquid democracy means this. You will have proxies that will vote for you. And you put your faith in these proxies, whether that's a company that represents you, but you could liquefy and go to a different person, a different company if you didn't like this company, how it represents you. But you go to this, you would have the freedom to pick your companies. But you would vote proxy through companies, tech companies, who would do your voting for you. Because, see, they don't believe you're smart enough to think through all of this. They think you and I are dumb. And now here's the thing. Here's a part of us that we understand something. We do understand that a lot of the voters in America are low information voters, right? They vote based on whims. They vote on whether their grandma was a Democrat or not. I mean, they vote stupid, right? The stupid, low information voter. Rush Limbaugh used to call them low information voters, right? Because they don't know a lot. And so they vote. They also say, yeah, that's right. That's a bad voter because they don't have the right information. But their solution to bad voting is different than our solution to bad voting. Our solution would be get them more information, get them the information so they can make better decisions in their voting. Their solution is, let's eliminate it. Let's just rule by fiat, and rule over them, and we'll eliminate all this nonsense. Because the system's messed up, you got people that don't know what they're doing, they're a bunch of idiots. We'll rule from the throne. Oh, so you're the elites that are going to do it. Because you're smart and you have money and billions and dollars. That's what the idea is. And so it's not reform. It's complete destruction of the West. It's called a hard reset, a full power start, a reboot of American governance. And we can only do this by giving absolute sovereignty to a single organization. Not a government. Not a government. Okay? Not a government. Let me show you one more thing, and we got to get you out and we'll continue this conversation. So they want to put what's called a SovCorp. That's short for Sovereign Corporation. Okay? Let's start with my ideal world, the world of thousands, preferably even tens of thousands of neo-cameralists, city-states, administrates, and neo-states. The organizations which own and operate these neo-states are for-profit sovereign corporations or SovCorps. No longer governments. We want to get rid of the governments because they're inefficient, and we want to get rid of the bureaucracies. We want to get rid of all of them, and we want corporations to run things now. That's what they want. How does this square with prophecy? How does this square with what Scripture predicts? Well, it's interesting that the tie in Revelation 17 is a three-legged stool. It is a three-legged stool, including the kings of the earth, the merchants of the earth, right? And then the religion of the earth, which is the whore of Babylon. So there's your three-legged stool. So this idea of a SovCorp running things fits in one of the legs of the stool as far as the merchants of the earth. These guys would be considered the merchants of the earth. The businesses, the corporations, the elites. They're fitting into that leg. And what I want to show you next week is their intent for our world. Their intent for what they want to do for you and I. And here's the thing. Because we're in an AI arms race with China and Russia and other rogue nations, they are being allowed to build the system. Because what they're saying is, well, who would you rather have the system's controlling it? Would you want it in China's hands, or would you prefer it in America's hands? Well, the answer to that is obvious. The problem is, we're building the system. We're building the system for totalitarian control. And they're the ones who are doing it right now. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. There's more in this Phoenix conspiracy that I want to show you. And it gets deeper, and it gets darker, and it gets worse. And it's happening right now in America. So we'll continue this as we watch the building of the beast system.